common pet waste business mistakes, talking about GPSs in our trucks, in our vehicles. So when did Scoop Soldiers start adding a GPS device into those trucks?
I would say after 3 trucks or so, give or take. We've always found the value in GPS. Now, early on, 8 years ago, and by the way, we didn't even have our first truck at Scoop Soldiers for 2 years, year and a half. We didn't get our first truck.
So it was...
we used, for us, we used the, Josh would just basically steal a truck from our mowing business and go and scoop.
Gotcha.
And it would usually be the unmarked one. Back then, we weren't as quick on a turnaround as far as getting our marked vehicles. We would buy a vehicle and leave it unmarked for a period because, in a lot of ways, that had to do with money. It cost money to wrap those vehicles, and we would delay it because we didn't have the money. And he would usually drive an unmarked mowing truck, and he did that even as we expanded. Even when we expanded to Austin and Houston, he put 19,000 miles as we were expanding our geographic area into new territories in 6 months on a brand new vehicle. But it was just a backup vehicle that we had bought on the mowing side. Now, parlay that onto how it would work for somebody else. It would just be they'd use a personal vehicle. And you can get away with anything. We used a Jeep Wrangler and scooped out of a Jeep Wrangler, an old Jeep Wrangler, not like a 4-door, not that it matters, but we used Jeep Wrangler. I have scooped out of my wife's SUV when we were in Houston once. So we've scooped out a lot of different stuff. But back to the GPS question.
Yep.
You want to get them as soon as you can. Almost, they're not expensive. And so we use T-Mobile's system, and I think it's like $15 a month. And it's interactive. It tells you exactly where that vehicle's at. It tells you how it's being driven. Gives you a lot of that information.
Yep.
Historically, even though we had it, we'll go months without looking. Historically, now we've gotten better, and the bigger you get, the more that matters. That you have to make time and build into your system and process the ability to be checking on a daily basis. It's how you check your efficiencies, make sure people aren't parking. We have caught people over the years, basically taking naps or what we presume to be naps or just hanging out on the clock by checking those GPSs. And so there's huge value. You've got to have GPS. You've got to know. I am not a micromanager by any means. And I do believe that a huge benefit to this industry is it's the logistical freedom it allows a technician. Again, whether you're in business for yourself or whether you're an employee, it allows that freedom. But when you start getting employees and having them in your trucks, you want to know where they're at and you want to know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And a GPS for $15 a month in a truck, at least for T-Mobile, that goes a long ways.
Yeah. Generally speaking, data is always objective, right?
Yes.
So you as a business owner have to understand what your metrics are, understand in what ways can this data be used to create more efficiency within each of your technicians.
It's all about information. And most business owners, if you're a business owner with 3 trucks out running, there's a lot even at that site, there's a lot you don't know. And the bigger you get, the more that compounds. And so the more information you can gather from technology, especially inexpensive technology, the better. Now we went dramatic. We've tried and even had cameras forward facing and backward. In other words, it was facing it could see the whole, what you could see as a driver driving the truck down the road. It could see everything outside, but it also looked back at the driver and at the cab and could show them that. And we've tried that. Now those proved to be less reliable, far more expensive, and therefore not comparatively cost.
It's not worth it.
Comparative. So. We have kind of settled on simple, and I would say, look, we use T-Mobile. That's not necessarily an endorsement. I think there's lots of systems out there. Whatever you can find that gets you that data you're talking about, the easiest and the most expensive and the least expensive.
So, what are some specific things that you are looking for whenever you are reviewing this information?
Well, it depends on if you're doing a deep dive. So if you're just doing a daily, you're basically just checking to make sure that people aren't going all over the place and people aren't stopping off at this place or that place. But, you know, less frequently than that, you want to make sure that routing is correct and accurate. So you can track clock in, clock out time, or it can help you. So we use a CRM. The CRM we use is Service Autopilot. A lot of people have heard of it. It's much more so built around the lawn and landscape, but it works extremely well for pet waste removal for a lot of reasons. But one of those things, we make sure that they clock in and clock out at each job, and we track that time. Well, the GPS acts as another cross-reference to be able to check that. Now, that's not necessarily something we're doing every day, but it allows us to maximize our efficiency and helps us determine where are we making money and where are we losing money.
Yeah, it's really important to, if anything, be spot checking. But like anything, you have to be disciplined and have some sort of structure set in place to where you are reviewing this information and then using that information. So it's not, and to your point, an area for you to start micromanaging in a way that's going to be counterproductive.
Correct.
So you have to be able to find what that balance looks like.
Yeah, we've only just in recent, I would even say the last 12 months, gotten consistent to where our market leaders, the people that are leading our technicians in each market, are consistently looking at GPS. Historically, in a lot of ways, it was just used as we'd go to it if we had a concern.
Right. So could you speak to the kind of impact that has had as the market leaders have started to use this information a little bit more consistently? How has it had an impact?
The way I'll speak to that is the data, the collection. We were talking about data a second ago. When we first started having a need for leaders, additional leadership within our team that was beyond myself or beyond Mr. Cahill, you need to run off data. Otherwise, you're running off perception, and you're basically putting out fires, and you're not efficient. And in this business, scale is very possible because of the nature of the business and, again, the time and history that we're at. Scale is, if you can manage the people and you can get enough work done, but scale is also extremely challenging because by and large, again, very simply put, you got to have a truck and somebody in that truck dang near full time for approximately every 150 homes. And again, that's a big range, 100 to 150, and it just depends on a lot of factors. But rarely are you hiring and putting somebody in a truck that's capable of doing 180 stops on their second week.
Right.
So you have to have a truck and a trained team member for every 100 to 150 stops a week. And on one hand, it takes a long time to get to 150 customers.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, as you continue to grow and as you continue to be able to put money into marketing and you continue to be able to put things into your brand, that growth can actually happen, and that's when scalability starts to hurt. And that's when you've got to have these systems and you've got to have these leaders, back to what these market leaders are looking at. They've got to run and lead their technicians with data. And you as an independent operator, if you've got two technicians or it's just you've got to run your business with data, because what is the alternative? If you're not running your business with the proper data, whether that's homes per hour, revenue per hour, all your different, whatever, however you're managing, we teach our market leaders a number of different things, but one of those is homes per hour and how to manage homes per hour, as well as how that correlates to a labor percentage. And they've got to kind of stay within parameters. Right. They've got to look for things, and they've got to look for red flags on a daily basis that are going to decrease that efficiency.
Yep.
And that's where data comes in.
Yeah. So I started doing this. My point in that was, otherwise you are going in many different directions and you're reducing your ability to streamline your efficiency, right? So how difficult is it to teach someone how to objectively use that data to be more efficient?
I have been very encouraged. See, again, a lot of what I'm talking about as far as that data, we were a little bit behind on this stuff.
Sure.
We didn't start really focusing on this stuff until the last 12 months or so. And prior to that, it was more reactionary. It was day to day. What our market leaders were doing in their day to day was far less efficient. I think they would agree with that. the point is you're able to do more. You're able to maximize that leader. Am I answering? I don't know if I'm answering your question or not.
I guess what I'm trying to get at is I think it's an easy, if I'm putting myself into the shoes of a aspiring pet waste entrepreneur and I'm hearing that I have to now look at all this data and be able to take all these numbers and put it into a system and process in place so that I can find how to be efficient. How does someone learn that information? Is it difficult to teach?
No, I have not found it to be difficult to teach. Thank you. Our market leaders have been fantastic in this. They've learned it in a matter of weeks in a lot of cases. It doesn't take, once you show them. Now, having them develop it and hoping and expecting them to develop it, that has historically not fully worked out. But once you develop them a process and a system, you maximize their ROI, their time by teaching them how to look at this data and know, by and large, that's the beauty in the pet waste business. That's one of the beauties in it, is it's adding and subtracting. You're not dealing in calculus. I don't know anything about calculus, so other than that it's hard. But so a lot of what the data you're looking at is very basic data. It's adding and subtracting. It's looking at time. It's recognizing that all we're doing is selling time. At the end of the day, that's all we're doing is buying and selling time.
The other benefit that I have found in understanding this concept a little bit more is as you are recognizing patterns in someone's performance, you have something tangible and actionable to go to them with on a plan to develop and get them to be more efficient. It could be that they are the route that they are taking is not the best route. Maybe we redetermine how we're going about that. And that's just one example.
And there's things you can do to encourage that too. How you pay people, and we can maybe jump in here real quick. How you pay people oftentimes matters. Now, most of the way we pay is hourly. It's not my favorite. It's not what I'd recommend. Pay for performance is always the best, and really, I wouldn't say the only option because we've proven that hourly can work, but pay for performance goes a long way. And figuring out how to get an ownership mindset into every one of your technicians so that they're thinking about that route the same way that you as the owner are thinking about that route, figuring out how to get them skin in the game is key in really maximizing that. Now, that's an area that we have a long way to go.
Sure.
But figuring that out, and the sooner you can figure that out, if you can figure that out with one truck and make it scalable to 10 trucks or 5 trucks or whatever, that's something well worth your efforts.
Your time. Yeah. Okay. So the last thing I wanted to, and if there's more we can talk about, but the last thing I wanted to make sure we're mentioning is having a GPS device attached to a truck in a lot of ways is an insurance policy.
Exactly.
Talk to me about that.
I'm glad you said it that way. In some of my notes as I was thinking about that question before this, I actually even put it's an insurance policy. It's just an addition to your insurance policy, and in some ways you can get discounts on it. So what might look like $15 a month might only be $9 a month. I don't know exactly.
Sure.
But, it is an insurance policy. You're exactly right. It's because that's the other benefits to it. Is it is asked if there's an accident that can get brought up.
Yeah.
So yes, great way to look at it. I completely agree.
Yeah. I think it's important to communicate the expectation that having a technician driving a vehicle with a GPS unit attached to it is not a negative thing. It is fully in their benefit.
Oh yeah.
It's a perception you have to crack.
And I have never had an honest team member have any issue with GPS at all.
Sure.
And I say an honest. I've had a handful of people, but there was usually an ulterior motive as to why they had an issue.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's an important topic to consider and implement.
Absolutely.
Into your business.